Uh-oh. Okay, we'll start with this. An update to a story we talked about in my previous video. Up until this point, there was a rumor that Australia's own Viviana Ruiz would be challenging Tszyu Metcalf for Tszyu IBF bantamweight title. That is, up until this fight was announced. The fight between Viviana Ruiz and Maria Rivera for the WBA interim flyweight title. The winner of this fight goes on to become the mandatory challenger for Gabby Fundora. And so, if Viviana Ruiz is fighting Maria Rivera at flyweight, she's not fighting Tszyu Metcalf at bantamweight, which then begs the question, who is Tszyu Metcalf fighting? Tszyu did say that she'd like a homecoming fight in Dallas, but for that to happen, somebody has to pony up the cash, and I'm not sure who's going to. Not but a few days ago, it was officially announced that Most Valuable Promotions had signed two-division unified bantamweight champion Dina Thorslund of Denmark. A fantastic signing. For the longest time now, it has been Dina Thorslund's intention to unify the bantamweight division and become its inaugural undisputed champion. Now with Most Valuable Promotions behind her, that becomes a distinct possibility, sporting an unblemished record of 23 wins with no losses, no draws, 9 knockouts. What does any of this have to do with Tszyu? Tszyu and Dina are champions at the same weight, and if it is Dina's intention to become this division's undisputed champion, it's only a matter of time before she goes after Tszyu. Tszyu Metcalf, who sports a professional record of 14 wins with 4 losses, 1 draw, 2 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 19 professional bouts. So what if Dina Thorslund's very next fight and her Most Valuable Promotions debut is a unification match with Tszyu Metcalf on the undercard of Taylor vs. Serrano 3 that we all know is going to be an all-women's card? We know of at least one fight set to go down on that undercard, Alicia Baumgartner's Most Valuable Promotions debut, opposite the ring, Jennifer Miranda. What if Dina's next fight is also on that undercard, and what if that fight is a Tszyu Metcalf unification match? What if? Tszyu Metcalf was last in action in October of last year opposite the ring then-champion Miyo Yoshida, who she beat for a second time to become full IBF champion. In that way, she has no ring rust to shake off because she will have seen action in the last 12 months, and she'll be fully recovered from that fight. She'll be ready to go. And remember that we're talking about an MVP show, so they will pay to play, likely guaranteeing Tszyu the biggest purse she's ever gotten as a professional boxer. So I think she'll play ball. I think that will be enough to convince her to unify titles with Dina Thorslund, who was last in action in October of last year, the same as Tszyu, opposite the ring Terumi Nuki, who she won a unanimous decision against. Last year was a productive year for Denmark's Dina Thorslund, who fought 3 times. She fought in February, she fought in May, then she fought again in October. I wouldn't be at all surprised to hear by the time that this video is uploaded that Dina Thorslund will be facing Tszyu Metcalf on the undercard of Taylor vs. Serrano 3. Wouldn't be surprised at all. And even if that isn't the very next fight, it's an eventuality, because Tszyu Metcalf has something that Dina Thorslund wants. How does that fight play out? Dina Thorslund would fight a better version of the fight that Miyo Yoshida just fought in her rematch with Tszyu. Dina would fight a better version of that fight, so much better, I think she wins wide on the cards. In the rematch between Miyo Yoshida and Sharita Metcalf, we saw Mio put a lot of pressure on Sharita, who was backpedaling, moving around, and using the ring as Mio advanced, putting punches together, throwing punches in bunches. Now, Mio's aggression was effective, albeit sometimes disorganized, whereas Dina is a more athletic fighter and a younger fighter, faster on her feet with faster hands, and more punching power, concussive punching power, that if Dina doesn't knock you out, at minimum she's gonna knock you down. Dina would fight an even better version of the fight that Mio just fought against Sharita, and Sharita's not getting any younger. She would find Dina Thorslund even more difficult to get away from on those 40-year-old legs, trying to keep distance between herself and Dina. It wouldn't work. Dina's seen that style before, and if she does see it again in her next fight, I anticipate Dina will add a third alphabet title to her collection. Oh yeah, she beat Sharita. I suspect that we are not far away from this fight, that behind the scenes, conversations could already be happening to bring this unification match into fruition, and if they do, I anticipate Dina wins. Dina wins wide. Let's see if they make it happen. As it pertains to another fight they're trying to make happen, Davis versus Roach Jr. rematch is being considered for June. Oh, that's what I told you guys weeks ago. The Gervonta Davis versus Lamont Roach rematch is being eyed for June 21st. There is a narrative to run things back following the controversial result of the first fight. Davis secured a majority draw to retain his WBA lightweight title, but looking back, he had gotten away with avoiding defeat. The referee did not call a 10-8 round for Roach when Davis took a knee in the 9th. Tank justified his decision to walk to his corner and wipe some grease from his face, but under the rules of boxing, the count should have been administered. I didn't want to get caught while my eyes were burning. You can get knocked out like that, so I'd rather take the knee. But I didn't know that you could get disqualified for all of that. When he, the referee, started counting, I'm like, what the hell? Davis stated. You know who else had something in their eye in the middle of a round and in the middle of a fight? Michaela Mayer last week, except she didn't have hair products in her eye. She had blood. And did you see her take a knee in the middle of a round to wipe her eyes or run to her corner so they could towel her down in the heat of the action? No, you didn't, because she's not a pussy. She's not a bitch, like Gervonta. Pretty much. That decision prevented Roach from becoming a two-weight world champion by picking up Tank's WBA lightweight title. Roach's team made an appeal to the New York State Athletic Commission to overturn the decision. Despite their attempts, the original ruling stood. Davis received a lot of backlash from the boxing community, suggestions that he is not as good as he claims to be. He had spoken previously about wanting to retire this year with a view to fighting 3 times more. So on that schedule, the first fight would have been the Lamont Roach fight, the second will be the rematch, and the third, I think, will be that arrangement that he had with Jake Paul. During the round in question, following the commission's request for the replay video, there was a technical issue preventing the commission from receiving it within the allotted time for review. Therefore, the referee's in-ring decision was relied upon, and the fight continued. The commission is dedicated to preserving the integrity of combat sports and is committed to working with all promotions and production teams on behalf of the athletes, officials, and fans to ensure technical issues do not occur in the future that prevent the delivery of ringside instant replay feeds to the commission's officials when needed. You wrote all that just to say you're not gonna do shit? Pretty much. Names such as Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, and Ryan Garcia were mentioned. Tank's biggest win in his career has been the Ryan Garcia fight, but that result came under fire since he fought Ryan at 136-pound catch weight with a 10-pound rehydration clause. He has also been accused of avoiding Shakur, who is the WBC lightweight champion. Shakur is seen as the biggest threat to his reign in the weight class, especially now that you struggled with a Lamont Roach, a guy you were heavily favored to beat. If you're struggling with him, it'll be even worse with Shakur. He was a 16-1 underdog going in. Something like that. If this is what happens when you face a 16-1 underdog, what happens if you face an even better fighter in a Shakur Stevenson? There's no question who's the more accomplished fighter or who's the more proven fighter. It's Shakur. There's no question. We ain't heard much from Gervonta Davis since the Lamont Roach fight, but I'd wager that what people are saying and the lens he's being viewed in now, It's affecting him because he's mentally weak, and he always has been.
Now, there was always a cluster of individuals within the boxing community that were coming down on him. Harsh critics, whereas now, the criticisms are even harder to escape.
Because it's not just the hardcore boxing fans, it's the casual ones too. The casual observers that a Gervonta Davis relies upon to purchase his pay-per-view with no prior knowledge.
No insight and no real understanding that this guy is a cherry picker.
If you're gonna go as far as bringing up a 130-pound fighter who's already lost to a Jamel Herring, the least you can do is seal the deal and knock the guy out. You didn't do that. In fact, mid-range to inside, which is supposed to be Gervonta Davis' sweet spot, he was losing the exchanges.
That's what was surprising.
In the exchange, Lamont Roach was more effective, more accurate, and simultaneously, he was able to deal with Gervonta Davis' perceived power.
Why?
What I noticed in the exchange is that Lamont's punches were shorter and tighter, shooting from the hip, as they say, and not losing that half a second loading up a punch so that there will be more power on it. Lamont Roach was landing with some regularity in the exchange, whereas Gervonta,
he was visibly frustrated. At one point, he actually tried to bite Lamont Roach in the clinch.
All the earmarks of a frustrated fighter, a mentally weak and frustrated fighter who's frustrated because he can't get rid of this guy. He can't get him out of here.
June 21st, that's when they want to do it. The second fight will sell more pay-per-views than the first. The first was estimated to have sold approximately 260,000 pay-per-view buys. I don't even believe that number, by the way, but that's the number that's out there.
Whatever the first fight did, the second fight will do even more. It's just a question of how much more. 300, maybe 400,000, 500,000? Controversy has a way of lending itself to a fight's appeal. Look at Wilder vs. Fury 1 and Wilder vs. Fury 2. The controversy from the first fight resulted in them selling even more pay-per-views for the rematch. More than 2 times.
More than 2 times as many. So that could be the case here with Gervonta and Lamont.
It'll do better business than the first one, but can Gervonta do better?
It's the first rematch of his professional boxing career, and for years, keeping up appearances relied on creative matchmaking and angling, pursuing the low-hanging fruit.
To where now, you actually have to change. You actually have to show the boxing world that you can adjust where you've never had to before.
Figure out how you can stop this guy, how you can solve this puzzle, because you couldn't knock him out, and you had 36 minutes to do it. What do you do differently in the rematch?
Now, as it pertains to this weekend's fight with Tim Tszyu and Joey Spencer, Joey says, "I was never going home. I'm ready to fight."
Now this.
Given the pre-fight drama, Joey Spencer picked the wrong day to be late to a media event. The visiting American casually strolled into the next Newcastle Exhibition Convention Center roughly 15 minutes into Friday's press conference ahead of his 10-round junior middleweight showdown with local hero Tim Tszyu. Spencer was unaware of and then apologetic for his tardiness, but made up for lost time by addressing the elephant in the room. Much of the build-up to their forthcoming headliner centered around the alleged promise of officiating neutrality. Spencer and his team insisted that they were assured at least 2 international judges for their Amazon Prime main event Saturday 10 p.m. Eastern from Newcastle, Australia Entertainment Center. The matter was ultimately rectified, though the Linden, Michigan native wanted to clear the air on whether the fight was ever actually in jeopardy.
I was never going home, Spencer insisted. I was ready to fight. There was some little clickbait stuff in the media that I was pulling out of the fight. That was never the case. We just needed to make sure that we agreed to, before the fight was signed, was ending up what was happening. This is something that we talked about 3 months ago. They got the judges straight. We're just ready to go.
While the matter was resolved, it quickly became the theme of Friday's local time press conference. "You were the guys complaining about it," Tszyu told Spencer. Who was talking? Who was talking about going back on a plane back home? That wasn't me. I was kicking back at home. This is what was told to me. Spencer, 19-1 with 11 knockouts, felt the need to set the record straight. "You've been lied to," insisted Spencer. "Think about your situation. Your team lies to you. They need you to be all fired up. They're worried about you. Everyone would be. If Tszyu needs to manufacture and create this big drama that wasn't even there, then obviously he's worried about something. That's what it is. Spencer will be making his international debut this weekend. The 25-year-old fringe contender has come up on PBC shows as he enters his first true main event, which comes on his opponent's home soil. Tszyu, 24-2 with 17 knockouts, is so entrenched in the home region that the promotion often refers to the city as Tszyu Castle. Spencer and his team are aware of the surroundings, but have asked to level the playing field, as they insist was agreed upon when the fight was finalized earlier this year. In the end, they were granted that wish. There remains debate, though, over the originally agreed-upon terms. We're fighting under New South Wales combat rules, and those are their rules. No Limit Boxing's George Rose, Tszyu's promoter, explained, "We went out of our way to get WBO sanctioning so that you can get neutral judges. We flew people in on 48 hours notice. You're not a bad guy. You're actually a nice guy, and it's something I don't like because we're looking forward to Timmy getting his hand raised. You put a lot of pressure on us to get the judges in. We brought the judges in, and now we've got a fight upon us on Sunday. There's no complaining. We've got neutral judges. Both fighters are in search of career redemption this weekend."
You can come back from that kind of loss. It happens. Plenty of guys have been blown out in a couple rounds and then come back to have very, very good careers. It happens. But he's going to have to answer those questions. And that's what training camp is for. It's going to be that first round. What's going to happen when that first punch hits you, that first jab catches you on your chin or hits you in your nose, and you get that little bit of feeling? Does your memory go back to, does that PTSD kick in, and you go back to, oh man, last time I was here, I got blown out, and I woke up and I asked what happened? Because literally, Tszyu asked what happened after the fight, because he really got blown out. So that's up to Tszyu, and that's where he's going to need to figure out where he's going to fall in terms of, you know, this very, very talented 154-pound division. But this is the right kind of fight for him to come back to. A guy with a good record who's not that dangerous.
If you've been paying attention, the running theme has been Americans flying out to Australia and upsetting the hometown fighter. Whether it's Keith Thurman flying out for Brock Jarvis or Tiara Brown flying out for Sky Nicholson,
The Aussies have been losing these fights, and you know what they say, bad things happen in threes. This will be the third consecutive fight we see in recent times where an American is taking on an Aussie on Australian soil.
Joey says they manufactured the controversy, that they were never going to actually leave. I don't buy that. I don't believe him.
The journos didn't pull that story out of their ass.
And it's a bit of a stretch to suggest they made the whole thing up to rile up Timmy.
No, I think Joey and his daddy threw their toys out of the pram and threatened to walk. Spoiled Americans.
That's what I think. Forecasting the outcome of this fight all boils down to faith. You have to take it on faith that there's still enough left of the old Tim Tszyu in there that he can at least beat a Joey Spencer. Because if he can't, then it may be time to hang them up.
The PTSD that Chris Algieri mentioned, is he going to be back in that dark place that he was in last year?
I don't know. I don't have those answers. I'm taking it on faith that Tim Tszyu can seal the deal this weekend. So my pick is Tim Tszyu by way of knockout.